Everybody, welcome back to week 2 here at the Goliath Gauntlet. I'm Tannon Grayson Flake. It is so nice to be back in the booth with you, and I am super excited for the matchup that we're going to be doing, the first matchup here on this Friday night.
It's great. Honestly, Tannon, like this is a very unique privilege for me because you and I rarely get to actually cast matches together. Maybe in the course of like a calling or like a nationals, you and I maybe get one match together that we have to sort of beg and claw for. But here we are. We're not necessarily like in elbow range, but I feel your presence.
Hold on. Wait,
yeah.
God.
I don't know. We're on that way. We can kind of do this and it looks ridiculous, but ultimately we're here in spirit, Tannon, and that's what matters because the Goliath Gauntlet, another roster of 16 awesome players. We've seen the first few sets of the games kind of come to a conclusion, but there's still a lot of players that are new to the camera scene altogether, like the match we're going to see today. One of my favorite players in all of Flesh and Blood history, Brodie Spurlock, Kid Wonderful himself, is going to be out there playing against a newcomer to the camera game, I suppose. I mean, we've never really seen this individual in any of the major tournaments like Callings, Nationals, Pro Tours, etc. He's never necessarily been there on camera, but he has been there, and you know him well. It is TheTallTimmy.
Yeah, capitalize this match. Make sure all those first letters are uppercase for this one. So if you know anything about TallTimmy on Twitter, it drives me nuts, but I love it. I look for it now. I remember the first couple times, like, what are you doing, man? But anyway, I got to meet him for the first time at Worlds, and absolute ray of sunshine. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. You cannot help but be in a good mood and smile when you're around TheTallTimmy, one of the most, if not the most infectious person in the entire game. And then you look at the other side, you look at Brodie Spurlock, I think he's 17, right? If I remember right, the 17-year-old, I don't want to say wonderkind, he's the wonder kid, you know, just the unbelievable. So he started playing, I think even after I did, like he got to the game even after me. And he says in his bio, I couldn't put it down, I couldn't stop playing. And it's a good thing because he also just can't stop winning. He's winning everything. In fact, I think over the weekend, he won another ProQuest to bank another PTI for himself. And he's been doing unreal things in the game of Flesh and Blood. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if OP keeps going the way it is over the next few years, if we're not having the talk about, you know, we always talk about Michael Hamilton or whoever as the best player in the world. This is the name that I think might be jumping into that talk in the next few years.
Most certainly a shortlisted player for a future sort of player of the year award. And if he kind of continues down this route, an ultimate, you know, a lock for a Hall of Famer down the road indeed. And like you mentioned, yeah, TallTimmy is just, he's basically a Red Bull on legs, and it's insane. It's incredible. Just being around him is beautiful. But these two players here are bringing their own spicy brews to this list, to this tournament. Their lists are quite familiar for the most part, but hey, the pilots themselves are what matters. It's not the plane, it's the pilot, Maverick. So we got to make it happen here. Let's take a look at their list. We're going to start with Brodie Spurlock, who is so known for his Briar play, but this time that's not the case, is it, Tannon?
No, yeah, definitely known for Runeblade and maybe some Guardians and stuff in the past. He says those are his favorite kind of heroes. But he said that he's been dabbling in the Wizard class, and that's what we're going to be seeing here today. He is going to be playing Icelander. This looks like a pretty traditional Icelander build. I am seeing 8 Aether Ice Veins. You know, we've seen that as a flex. How many yellows are going to be in your deck? You know, we've seen some play 0, some play 1, but there's 2 in here. Other than that, I don't know what else really like jumps out at me, Flake. I don't know what you were taking a look at here. You were saying a thing or two about here, but pretty traditional list, just a couple, you know, different numbers here or there.
Yeah, it's pretty stock. I mean, it's loaded with ice. You've got the frost hexes, the you know, and all the stopping, those aggro stop gaps, things like the blizzards, the hypothermias, the channel like frigid that can come out at instant speed and shut things down. But like I mentioned, or like you mentioned, that the 8-pack of Aether Ice Veins, typically you see a 3-pack of reds, a 3-pack of blues, and maybe you sprinkle a yellow in here. It looks like Brodie Spurlock really wants to make it uncomfortable, especially by packing in an extra 2 Aether Ice Veins in the yellow category. So it can go aggressive. The 3 Scar for a Scars are always going to be online to start the game. So it's going to be, and especially against a hero that Timmy's playing that likes to trade damage, this could get nasty real fast.
Yeah, you mentioned hypothermia, you know, channel like frigid. Those cards are going to come in big because TallTimmy, he's bringing that Runeblade that we mentioned. He's bringing Briar. to the table, and you're going to be seeing Channel Mount Heroics. You're going to be seeing all those big attacks. One of the cards you were pointing out to me a little bit before we got started today, you want to talk about, do you think Erase Face can play a little bit of a role in this matchup?
Well, Erase Face is not going to necessarily X out or cancel the color strip of the card, so someone like Iyslander will always be able to go ahead and play out of the arsenal with those blue cards, but they're not necessarily going to have the ice cards or the frostbite effect that is going to come with it. And so it's a card that Iyslander is going to have to respect. It's a card that's likely going to get 2-card block out of it, mainly because Icelander's equipment are all utility. They're not defensive. So you're going to peel cards out of the hand with something like Erase Face, especially something like Erase Face off the back of a Channel Mount Heroic. So that's very clutch as well. I also want to quickly point out that, seeing Earthlore Surge in these Channel Mount Heroic lists is nothing really all that out of the ordinary, but seeing red Earthlore Surge is quite impressive, as well as it's a card that can really go over the top and make an attack a +5. So there's a situation here perhaps where you might see someone like TallTimmy try to pair up those Erase Faces with that red Earthlore Surge and really create some drama in the matchup. But again, the tough part here, Tannon, is that once you play a non-attack action, you're giving a window to Iyslander to tax your hand pretty heavily. So you really need to make sure that your creative accounting is spot on, because your blue cards are going to be very, very valuable and very coveted.
I'm really glad that you were talking about the card Earthlore Surge. I have the yips when it comes to saying that card. I cannot say it at full speed. Otherwise, it all just mushes together and I can't say it. But Lightning Press as well. There's 2 of these in Timmy's deck, so look for that today. That could also possibly go into some of these attacks, make sure something gets through. And if it's in his deck list, right? We'll see if that's in it after sideboarding, because this is still round 1. The deck lists are still closed. They become open in round 2. And there's always that debate on what's better, the actual card or the threat of the card? Knowing it's there, it's like the first time you see like a pummel out of your opponent's deck, you're like, oh no, now they ever have, resources floating, now you've got to worry. So definitely going to be a great matchup here between these 2 players. Enough talking about it, Flake. Let's go ahead and head on down to the match. Let's see if these 2 can battle out who's going to make it through round 1 of the Goliath Gauntlet. Oh, nice little fist bump from the 2 here. And you may notice in these pictures, I was thinking about whether I should talk about this or not, but I think this is the biggest age gap we've ever had in the history of the Goliath Gauntlet as well. There's a 20-year age gap between these players, showing you that these card games truly are transcendent between all ages, and just anyone can enjoy these.
But not only that, I mean, there's also a gigantic happiness gap between the pictures of the 2 players. As you see Brodie Spurlock with those are some Eric Gagne goggles, baby. I
love that reference, by the way. Love that reference. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Definitely.
Who had 5 minutes into the broadcast, the first baseball reference is Flake and not Tannon. If you had that on your bingo card, I think you're a huge winner. Also, to get to the match, take a look at this equipment from the Timmy. There's no arcane barrier here. Is that something that you think you're going to expect in this kind of matchup?
Oh, 1,000%. And honestly, and this is something where TallTimmy on Briar says, I got to close this out in 3 or 4 turns. And it's not like Kano, where Kano can push the 30 some odd 40 damage if all the dominoes align correctly. This is something where Brodie's going to have to chip away. So TallTimmy's saying, why am I going to pitch my coveted blue cards to absorb damage when I can use those to potentially force more damage to face and peel cards out of the way? TallTimmy here needs to find a Channel Mount Heroic early, needs to get that set up, and needs to find some blue in order to fuel his turn. Brodie Spurlock, on the other hand, is going to be more methodical. He's going to be more of a hero of opportunity, whereas the TallTimmy is going to push his chips to the center of the table every single turn.
And a poker reference for me too.
I knew you were coming, baby.
My heart.
I knew you were coming. I gotta get him all in.
All right, gotta get them all in. I love it. Well, I call. But anyway, one of the things that I'm really going to be excited for here is to see the difference between the deck that TallTimmy's playing, whether he has Channel Mount Heroic or not. Because like you said, I think that's the most important thing. And seeing how these decks operate with or without that card is so huge. It looks like we're going to have our first play. It's going to be from TallTimmy. He's going to be starting us off. And it looks like an Amulet of Earth is going to make its way into play.
That's half a lightning embodiment of lightning there. It's like a half go again. It costs you nothing. And as you're going to see typically in this particular matchup, Tannon, it's not like when you're playing aggro versus aggro where you're like, Amulet of Earth into this, into this, into this. It's you got to give Brodie Spurlock an opportunity to respond. He's got a lot of windows that he can go ahead and kind of, whisper through that crack in the door and maybe mess up the TallTimmy's plan.
Yeah, it looks like we've got an arsenal set up here as well, and then a draw back up to force. No attack from the Tall Timmy, but that's going to be different from Brodie Spurlock. It looks like the first thing we're getting from him is a fused Aether Ice Vein.
Fusing with the Frost Hex, also pitching the Frost Hex here. Brodie Spurlock is also kind of telling the Tall Timmy, basically saying, hey, no surprises. This is probably going in my arsenal, big boy. So get ready. The problem is in this case, Tannon, the Frost Hex strategy is typically good against heroes that kind of are a little bit more methodical. Your Guardians, let's say your Dorinthias, perhaps the heroes that take a little bit longer to establish and to convert. Whereas in this case, the Frost Hex is just kind of maybe just sort of, again, pepper away a little bit at the health total, because the Tall Timmy is going to be very freewheeling with his life total.
Yeah, and that life total, like you said, he's a little bit easier, right? That's a better resource for him to be able to use because he's not looking for as long as a game. But anytime you can get cards out of their hand, is that a big deal for Brodie? Because it looks like he got an Enlightened Strike out of Timmy's hand.
That's huge. And again, it's probably just because of the fact that Tall Timmy either wants to hold on to a blue to push a turn, or he's saying this E-Strike, I mean, if I play the E-Strike and bottom a card, I'm mostly going to have to draw in order to just deal with the Frost Hex that is going to be played out of the arsenal. That's going to create a Frostbite. If I just dunk it and get away, there's a good chance that what he has in hand instead is a free go again card, just like that one there. That's precisely why you're dunking on the E-Strike and holding the Scar for a Scar.
Yeah, a lot of damage received by Timmy on that last turn. Took the full brunt of that card plus a Waning Moon, so he's down to 33. But that means that this Scar for Scar has go again, because Icelander usually has a lower life total because they started a lower life total. They could take some damage in the earlier turn, but you saw Timmy not attacking turn one. Make sure that life total doesn't get too far of a discrepancy. Plus, didn't get any filtering going for Brodie on turn one. Now here we go. We got the Scar for the Scar attacking.
Don't get me wrong here, Tannon. It's like
sure,
yeah. Like Timmy at 33, sure, you get all the benefits of the Scar for a Scar. You're shutting off cards like your opponent's Scar for a Scar, your opponent's Heart of Findel, the bonuses you get from Wounded Bull, from Findel's Fighting Spirit. But given the opportunity, I'm sure Timmy would be like, I would rather be at 43, frankly, and not have go again. But that's okay. We're all right with this.
He's going to want to get Brodie's life total down, right? Like he actually wants to kill Brodie. And like you said, you want to do it as quickly as possible in this matchup, because if you take too long, you're giving Brodie too much time to set up a bunch of stuff. So this does look like we got a block out of Brodie's hand here. I think a damage is going to leak through. Embodiment of Earth is going to get triggered here by the Tall Timmy.
Patience is important here, Tannon, because you notice that there is an ice card in Brodie's arsenal, but you're wondering, why is he not firing it off now? I think what he's trying to do here is she's trying to time it precisely to stop the Rosetta swing. Yeah,
that's a really big thing here. I think it can't be stated enough how important timing is with this powerful Wizard of Icelander. Yeah, this, in my opinion, is the most powerful card. I mean, the most powerful hero in CC. Maybe not after the banning, we'll have to see, but because of, if you get the timing right, it's so hard to play against. And that life total on the Tall Timmy is still lower than on Brodie Spurlock. So that means the second Scar for Scar got to go again as well.
Now we see a little bit more of the information, like why would you dunk on that Enlightened Strike? Well, he had 2 free go agains, and that's precisely what Tall Timmy is hanging on to. He's got a card in arsenal as well. We're going to see when this ice card comes out. Also, Brodie's might have been said, shoot, I should have taken the first Scar for a Scar and shut off the second one, but now he's kind of doing it the wrong way. And another go again.
Yeah, this one is a Ravenous Rabble. Looks like it's going to show a Autumn's Touch, I believe, and I think those are only blue in Timmy's deck, so it does look like an Autumn's Touch. So this is going to be a Ravenous Rabble.
Yeah, not a whole lot here. It's only going to come in for 2, but again, chipping away slowly. And the question here is Brodie going to use that Frost Hex, or is he perhaps holding on to it? We'll see as we sort of approach the turnaround here, but that's some good work from Tall Timmy there.
Yeah, I got Brodie down to 29. He still has an arsenal, Timmy does here, so he's going to be going into a 5-card hand in the next turn, and you saw how important it is for him to have cards in his hand starting. You got to kind of shrug off that discard effect from Brodie and still have a really good offense back. Brodie didn't really get too much going there, but we'll see. Maybe he's got a Wounded Bull turn. His life total is a little bit lower. It looks like we are going to start off an attack here from Brodie. Let's see what it is. So important, the life totals in this matchup.
I love Tall Timmy. Like you mentioned, the first time you meet him, I had no idea. I've seen his videos. I've heard him speak. He's always a very pleasant person, a very enthusiastic person. But I remember when we were walking down that street in the morning, I went to go get my coffee at this little donut shop called Academic Coffee. They make such good donuts. Walking to the venue, I see Tall Timmy. I was like, who is this gigantic marble statue?
He's hard to miss. He is a large man. Yeah.
And he's like, Flake, that flight? I was like, oh my God. And I went to go talk to him, and it was just like, I'm like, dude, I can throw up my coffee right now. I am so damn energized. The guy is just so awesome. And also what's awesome is 2 amulets of ice right on the board for Brodie Spurlock.
Yeah, this is going to signal something really scary for Timmy here. Like, let's say there is a way to do some ice fusion out of Brodie's arsenal on the next turn. Not only would that create a frostbite, but this would create so many discard effects that you might get, your whole turn taken away as TallTimmy. You might get to do one thing in response to this kind of stuff. So this is super scary. And it makes me wonder, is, Brodie going to look to, possibly do all of that in one turn, or is he going to space it out? Like maybe, Amulet of Ice one turn, Amulet of Ice the next turn, but you can't always bank on having Ice Fusion. So maybe you just cash in both the first time you get the chance.
That's it. If you think that you've got the runway and get a second spot on it, that's definitely an opportunity to just sort of space them out to just sort of mitigate the damage. But, TallTimmy wants to go full face so that you don't know how much opportunity you'll have down the line. You do have a lot of, obviously your deck is loaded with ice, and you do have cards like Aether Ice Vein ×8 that you can hit those fusions with. But one bad turn, one bad opportunity, or one missed opportunity rather, and then you'll feel like, damn, like what happened here?
Yeah, it looks like Coronet Peak's going to get activated, and that's going to get an Erase Face out of the TallTimmy's hand here. So he's going to be going into his turn with 3 cards in his hand, 1 in that arsenal still. So a lot of options for Timmy here.
Worth noting,
29. Go ahead.
There was that blue Earth card that was revealed from the Ravenous Rabble. TallTimmy drew into that. So you do have a blue Earth card in his hand. I'm wondering if perhaps what's in his arsenal is something like a CMH. So he's got the blue Earth card to perhaps drop the CMH. And close enough.
Like it's a Force of Nature. This is going to Earth Fusion as well here. So this amulet of his own is on. So if he wants to pop that this turn, maybe save it for later. Not a ton of chances to do so. There's not just infinite Earth fusion in this deck. So we'll see if he wants to do this turn. There we go. That's going to be a Nimblism played afterwards. Well, that's going to make an embodiment of lightning. So this next attack is going to have go again from the TallTimmy, and this is one of the better ones to have go again. This is a snatch.
This is huge. This is absolutely huge. This is going to come in for, it's getting +1 from the Force of Nature +3. So this is 8 right off the bend. And that is an incredibly awkward number to deal with at 8. And if necessary, at instant speed, you can go ahead and pop that Amulet of Earth. So it's not necessarily about blocking 8 here. You got to potentially block 9. So that is a 3-card commitment from Brodie Spurlock.
Yeah, and I wonder what's in Brodie's arsenal. I wonder if there was maybe, if there's not an ice card there, if that wasn't something he wanted to do, after Force of Nature or, after the Nimblism to maybe slow down Timmy this turn. Maybe this doesn't even have an option to, because the way this is played out, it seems like he has it, because that would have been possibly a really good spot to try to tax Timmy's hand.
Great spot here for TallTimmy. He's also sitting on a loaded tunic, so there's always that opportunity if necessary. If one frostbite might muck you up, you can always respond by floating that tunic resource. So that is certainly helpful again. But it seems like Brodie Spurlock's just kind of been sitting on that egg in his arsenal, hoping it hatches into something better.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to line up a block here. So I think that's multiple cards. I'm not sure, but I mean, this is a huge attack. And if it hits, it is going to draw a card here. Like you said, this is attacking for a ton. Plus, it's got that extra cheeky 1 sitting on the board and the Amulet of Earth if needed.
I love that. That's like kind of like you mentioned earlier, floating 2 resources as a Guardian and just threatening pummel, and your opponent has to respect it. But if it just sits there constantly, I mean, it gets so much work done.
Yeah, don't forget, this would actually draw 2. I forgot. You have Snatch plus Force of Nature's actual stuff too. So this does look like it's going to be a double block, and what looks like a Sink Below from Arsenal as well, which, that makes sense, right? Like it almost had to be. So what is this? This is 4. Is this 9?
This is a 9. This is in a 10.
Okay, so yeah. So this will stop it. Yeah.
Press gets you above. Don't get me wrong. Press gets you over the top here, but Lightning Press at this juncture is apparently not not what he's got. But hey, we're still going to be able to attack for 2 and 2.
Yeah, and this Rosetta Thorn, like you said, is going to attack for 2 and 2, and this allows Timmy to leave a card in his hand as well here, so he's going to be able to go into another 5-card turn here. Now, while this kind of sucks for Timmy, right? Like, you'd love for your Snatch to hit, and you get to trigger your Force of Nature, draw a bunch of cards. You still get almost Brodie's entire turn here, plus an arsenal. So does this still feel like an okay turn for you if you're TallTimmy?
I think it's all right. Again, you're kind of looking to
high end. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, he's got a stand-up double here to a degree, but he was hoping that, maybe it hit the gap and he can sort of round the bases a little bit better. Unfortunately, though, again, that sink below in Arsenal may have been not what Timmy wanted, but you're buying the turn here because if that's an ice card in Brodie's hand, he's just going to pass the turn and dunk that into the arsenal anyway. So Tall Timmy at the very least gets to go into the next round with another 5-card spread. And if he does find that CMH, he is in a really good position because he's still got a robust life total.
Absolutely. So this long drive only converted into a short gain here for the Tall Timmy. Only maybe a couple bases when he wanted all 4. So we're going to go back over to Brodie Spurlock. He's at 27. It looks like he's going to be able to. All he's going to be able to do is just arsenal and pass back over. I think he's got a fully loaded tunic here as well. So, definitely has a chance to do some stuff here during Tall Timmy's turn. 'Cause this game has felt like all Timmy so far. But if you're in Brodie's seat, you could have been in a much worse position than you're in right now. All right, Ravenous Rabble, that's going to reveal a red off the top of Tall Timmy's deck. So this is going to be coming in for 4. This has go again.
Good start.
This is just the start of the turn, yeah.
Breakpoints, baby. That's what you need to get done here. Also, when you're playing as Briar, Tannon, you do not know. You're the opponent. You don't know how wide this turn could potentially get. Ravenous Rabble is just the first little domino to fall, and Brodie Spurlock is going to happily take that at this juncture. And we don't know what's in his arsenal. But at a certain point, Brodie's going to have to fire off and maybe gum up this turn with some nastiness. But that embodiment of Earth is going to help him down the road potentially. As again, these new Icelander lists, I call them new. They're not new anymore. But these strong Icelander lists, they pack some physical punch.
Oh, absolutely. You're looking something like Wounded Bull, Findle's Fighting Spirit, huge attacks that also gain you life as you're going on. That could be huge in this game for Brodie because these life totals are starting to get a little bit apart. There's a little bit of a gap here. There's a 10-point life swing here. And Tall Timmy's not done yet this turn either. Still got a ton of cards in his hand. Still got a card in his arsenal. I definitely can understand, taking your time here. Look, you prodded a little bit with a Ravenous Rabble, right? And Brodie's immediately took it. So what does that mean? What are you thinking about? What do you think is possibly coming out of the hand? Now, this looks like it's going to get followed up by a captain's call.
I do want to just give major props to both players for playing very methodically, very kind of deliberately, and also cleaning up the combat chain when that's the case. Because again, when you play a non-attack action, that technically closes the chain. And Tall Timmy, again, taking no shortcuts here and putting the card away from the combat chain. So again, big appreciation to Tall Timmy, to Brodie Spurlock, and all the players for really making this easy on us, frankly, Tannon.
Absolutely. And this looks like a Storming Gloomville that's coming in, and I believe only one aura has been made this turn, correct? I think it's just the embodiment of Earth, so this will have go again. I wonder if it's being pumped by the captain's call. I love that you're mentioning all this right when I'm like, oh, Timmy, we need the dice on this card from you, like right in the back of my mind, because I believe this is coming in for 5.
I imagine that this is the plus 2. Yeah.
Otherwise, captain's call. So,
yeah. So it's coming in for the plus 2. It's going to help out that. It's going to help that out, and it looks like he's going to take 1. So it was a 5 attack. It is going to connect here. It does have go again. So again, little by little, Tall Timmy is just making it uncomfortable for Brodie.
Yeah, it does look he's gonna pitch this last card, and if this is a blue, this is gonna be nice. This is gonna make a rune chant. We're gonna have a resource floating over, and it looks like he's gonna follow this up with a Rosetta Thorn for 2, 2, and 1. One of my favorite flavors of Rosetta Thorn. I hope we never lose this weapon, Flake. It might be my favorite weapon in the history of the game.
Yeah, no, I'm cool. Hey, this is on the day where my poor Oldham lost his left arm. It's the worst thing ever.
He lost more than that. He lost his left arm and some of his bag of tricks.
Yeah, poor guy.
He took it bad today.
I got another. I have a week to just go to town with him, and then we're done. But we're recording this on the 24th of January, like an hour after the ban restriction announcement came out. So there's so much speculation.
Home. Yeah, I'm on my way home to record this, and all of a sudden Twitter exploded about FAB. So, 33 to 20 back to the game here. Brodie Spurlock, he's getting that life total walked down quite a bit here, and I feel like this is kind of what happens sometimes when you're playing against the Briar deck, and you don't have a way to really interact with them much. But here's a decent way of interacting here, and this is so dangerous because this is a Chilling Ice Vein. An Aether Ice Vein. Being ice fused with 2 amulets on play, I wonder how many cards Timmy is going to have left over going into his turn. It's going to be a low amount. He's going to take the full amount of the spell here. So trigger discard.
So this is the question here because I think if Brodie sees Timmy discard, he's going to hammer that amulet and say, all right, give me another one. If Timmy pitches a blue, I think he's going to fire it anyways, because it's going to cost another card anyway. So I think in this case, you're going to see Brodie likely just push that amulet forward and say, give me another one. But we're going to see, if put it this way, if this was if Channel Mount Heroic was on the board, Brodie would basically fire off every single one of those amulets. It looks like he's going to break the other one, and this is going to buy another card.
Yeah, and this is where it's going to be interesting to me. How far do we go down the rabbit hole here? Let's see. This is the first amulet device, and yeah, you get to resolve these all separately, so you get all the information. So there's a resource floating. It looks like a red's going to get pitched to pay for that. So those are the 2 cards that are in pitch. So there should be, 2 cards left over in Tim's hand. It does look like he's thinking about possibly not. Yep. He's going to let Timmy keep those couple last cards and be content with taking that kind of turn from him. Now, there is a card going into Brodie Spurlock's arsenal. If that's an ice card, is that enough to possibly stymie this turn enough from Brodie?
I think that you can. Again, the major aspect here is that the Tunic is not going to pay for Rosetta, so you're going to have to pitch something out of hand to get that, which means that in order to make this turn even somewhat salvageable, Tibby's going to have to go something like Nimblism into Lightning Surge from Arsenal into pitching a card out of your hand to pay for Rosetta.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, buddy.
No, that's cool. Like but that's basically the best scenario for Tall Timmy.
Yeah, and speaking of Tall Timmy, here's one of the unfortunate parts of your hero. So when it makes an embodiment of Earth, at the beginning of your turn, the embodiment goes away. That creates a trigger, and that creates a window for Brodie to respond to, which he is going to do. He's actually going to take that opportunity to fire an Ice Bolt out of his arsenal. And what that does is it puts a Frostbite on Timmy's side before he has a chance to even do anything positive with his turn. So there's no I'll just start my turn off with this attack. It's the only attack I have, so I don't care if you give me a Frostbite because my turn's going to end and it's just going to go away. This is one of those weird timing things that comes up that really, really gets the Briar player sometimes. And it's really cool to see it. The first time it kind of popped up and it's like, oh yeah, they do create a trigger at the beginning of their turn. So Timmy's going to be fighting with just 2 cards here in that card is Arsenal, and he's starting out with a Frostbite.
So if he's got a blue in hand over here, you could still pitch the blue. Let's say if you pitch resources out of hand, you could still have Nimblism into attack with Go Again into Rosetta, and you could pay for the entire thing, and that's actually not bad. That's acceptable. That's quite on point here, as he does take the Ice Bolt damage down to 25. So it's 25 to 20 here. There's an ice. There's ice on the board. Is that just okay? I don't mind this. That looks like an Autumn's Touch that he's just basically saying, let's go for it. It's 5 damage, and you're on the hook.
Yeah. And it's a big pitch too from him as well. There's a Channel Mount Heroic getting pitched there, but with the way the game's been going on, he hasn't really had a good chance to activate that, get that ready, set that up. And now these life totals they're getting really, really close. Tall Timmy down to 22 after the Waning Moon activation, and now Brodie's going to consult his graveyard, think about, hey, how much damage do I want to take here? How low do I want to go? Can I give away some cards here? Because this game has gotten a lot closer than it was, say, 2 turns ago.
I love that Timmy's playmat says, welcome to the Tall Timmy's combat chain. It's like the player has sort of made reservations to attend it, and it's supposed to be a great thing. Meanwhile, Tall Timmy's combat chain has just been punishing Brodie Spurlock the whole way. I think Timmy in this case was the victim of basically having the wrong card in Arsenal. If that was a CMH in Arsenal and an Autumn's Touch in hand, he would have been well poised to just jam out that CMH, pay through the Frostbite, put it on the board, and say, all right, next turn, I am going to town on you. In this case, unfortunately, it's just 5. So Timmy here is making, chicken salad out of chicken S and doing the best that he can. And I think that you have to continue to pressure the life total, because at some point Brodie's going to have to block to save his life, and it might just create a scenario where he's out of an arsenal. Icelander without an arsenal is so much better. It's like seeing an extra life raft when the Titanic's going down. That's kind of the same feeling.
Speaking of extra life, that is a block from a Findel's Fighting Spirit here with a lower life total. So Brodie's going to go up to 21 here from this block. And I love that thing, welcome to the combat chain. It's like, Timmy's going to make reservations for 2. This might not be a reservation you actually want, though. This might be one of those ones you conveniently forget about, because you might not like how it ends up at the end of the day. We're going to go back over. Yeah,
I was going to say,
go ahead.
I wonder if Tall Timmy's combat chain is Australian for Thunderdome. Pretty sure that's what it means.
Yeah, that's the direct. I think that's a look. Let me type it into the Google machine and you can look up Australian, and because I am not a language scientist, so I need to make sure that's Australian. But that sounds right to me. Maybe this is when you need Uber in the booth. So, right, he just gives us one of those. But so back over to the Timmy after Brodie does the typical Icelander play. Yeah, I gave you all my extra cards. I got this one left over. Put it in my arsenal, set up, and we'll go into our turn. Go ahead.
And he's got his Brodie as Icelander. Every Icelander kind of just always has their foot in the door at all times. Just, we're not going to close the door on your turn just yet. But if need be, I can kind of swing it open and make some stuff happen. That's a good way to start the turn, I think.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is Exude Confidence. My vote for at the time was the wordiest card in the history of Flesh and Blood. It's maybe supplanted by a specialization from Mr. Oldham, and some other cards have come out, but this is one of the hardest cards to resolve correctly the first time you play against it. So this one, no reaction are going to get played to the chain after this, but Brodie's actually gone through most of them already, so we'll see what kind of responses he's going to have to this. So it looks like Exude Confidence is going to lead off the turn here for Timmy, and Timmy looks like the kind of person who exudes confidence to me, so this makes sense for him to have this card in his deck.
But it's so well earned, and it's not one of those confidences where you're like, wow, what a douche. Like, you meet him and you're like, I just want to be in a car with you for 8 hours. Like, that's kind of how it feels. That there's not many people in the world, myself included. I don't even want to be in a car with myself for 8 hours. But Timmy here is exuding significant confidence. Just look at that face on that picture. He's got that stank face saying, yeah, let me teach you a little bit about life, kids. It's basically death, taxes, and Briar going wide and tall here. So that's a good start here as Exude Confidence. Like you mentioned, it's wordy as hell, but it can kind of catch you off guard too.
Yeah. Speaking of keeping up here as well, I think this might be one of the turns, depending on how Brodie reacts to this, that we might see the Snapdragon Scalers come out. If Timmy wants to keep going, he's got go again here, or if Exude Confidence hits, he still can pitch and power up that Exude Confidence as well. Maybe set up for a big turn next turn. Lots of options for Tall Timmy here. His Tunic only at 2, so doesn't have that in the back pocket as well for like Rosetta Thorn in the next. But that's set up pretty well for the next turn.
Yeah, there's no Razor Reflexes in this list, so the only option for go again, frankly, without kind of just manufacturing it with Briar's ability, is going to be with those Snapdragon Scalers. And I think Brodie at this juncture is saying, okay, we're going to do a little hocus pocus here and kind of lower the temperature of this board for just a bit.
Yeah, it's real chilly in here. It's an insidious chill, actually. Flake, that's going to come out of the arsenal and give a frostbite over to Timmy. Timmy shaking in his boots a little bit. It just got colder in here. How do you want to deal with this? Do you want to turn the thermostat up? You're going to have to pay a little bit if you do.
Hey, it's January. This is Australian summer. He's not prepared for this. And this is a frostbite that he did not want to see, because again, on a deck that likes to really double down on red cards, that one frostbite for a Guardian is laughable. For a red line Briar list, an aggressive Briar list, that is an entire card out of your hand potentially.
Absolutely. So let's see how he wants to deal with this.
So at the moment, I don't know if blocks were made here. I don't know what was committed. We can't necessarily hear the players at the moment. I'm pretty sure Brodie is still contemplating potentially blocking here, but perhaps it's a matter of just the Tall Timmy wondering if it's worth it to commit that Snapdragons, because you're going to have to pay for it. That Snapdragons, which is typically free, is going to cost you 1 based off of that frostbite. So Tall Timmy here might be saying, is this worth a red card to pitch? Or do I just wait? And the other question here, Tannon, is if I do wait, do I get another opportunity?
Yeah, that's always the scary part, right? Like when you're playing against Icelander, is you can set up for things. You can think you have your whole turn mapped out, and they can just kick you in the butt at every stop and make it really, really bad for you. So it does look like we're going to have a pitch here. It looks like we're going to have 3 pitches here. Is this all to pump the Exude Confidence?
I think that's okay. I genuinely think that's okay. And what this does here is it does kill the frostbite, but it also, thank you, Timmy, it also shows you the sheer sort of strength and the how high that this card can go. It's going up to 8, A little bit of it has been blocked here. 5 of it has been blocked. But again, you're sort of chipping away at that life total. And you're also preserving the Snapdragon Scaler. So I like this move by Timmy here.
Yeah, absolutely. Gets through a little bit of damage, puts Brodie down to 18. Timmy's still sitting at 22. I think he doesn't have a card left for an Arsenal here, though. I think that was his entire hand this turn. So he's going to drop to 4. He's going to be playing with just those. But he's about to get his turn right back because we're going into Brodie's turn. His tunic's going up to 2, but that last card he's got left over, I believe, just get, yep, there we go, right into the Arsenal and ship right on back to Tim. So we're going to kind of go right back to where we were, except Brodie's at a little bit less of a life total. So let's see what kind of turn TallTimmy can get here. That tunic's up to 3 here, so Rosetta Thorn on the cheap here. So, all right, Brodie, do you have any responses to the embodiment of Earth going away? We've got to make sure we do that housekeeping at the beginning of the turn.
Yeah, no, good. Well, good job on both players for playing, playing by the rules, obviously, but also playing very sort of, methodically, just kind of taking every step, no shortcuts. It's the way it's got to be. And yeah, the tunic up on all the way up to 3 is a very good thing. It allows you to sort of negate a frostbite by at instant speed responding to a potential frostbite that is going to be created. But the difference here is that TallTimmy has kind of had no luck finding the CMH when you can pay for it, unfortunately. And at the same time, no Arsenal on this turn is kind of nerfing it to a degree. But I think what we're starting here, it looked like that was a 5 go again. So 2 cards left for Timmy here. There is a potential to also just kind of stretch this turn out a little bit. But, I think that if you're opening with something like Enlightened Strike for go again, you don't have the non-attack action to charge that Rosetta Thorn. You don't have something like a Nimblism or anything else. So this turn here, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Timmy just hit him with something like a Race Face after this.
Yeah, we'll have to see. This does look like we're going to have a Blizzard here.
Oh, brutality. Absolute brutality, Tannon. And again, even though it wasn't played from Arsenal, it is an instant speed card and it is an ice card. So Icelander is taxing that go again for 2 and creating a frostbite. If you just want to continue on your journey, you got to just go ahead and put a blue card in the paper shredder.
And that's something that gets overlooked. And I kind of forget myself sometimes. It doesn't have to be a card from Arsenal. Just if you play a card during your opponent's turn, an ice card, they're going to get a frostbite. So it looks like here's that play you were talking about. Timmy's going to go ahead, make the resource in response.
I guess he's got it. I mean, he might actually have a blue that he can just kind of go ahead and pay through here. It's going to cost him 2. There's a Pulse of Candlehold in his list as the only yellow pitch. So I'm wondering if he's floating the resource in order to just bust through this entire taxation here.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look. But like you said, Blizzard, that's going to target attack loses and can't gain go again unless the attacking hero pays 2. So we've got that 1 floating. This means we need something else from the TallTimmy, another red or something from hand. And then what's left over this turn as well, because if he does pay for this, that means he's probably not arsenaling this turn. He's probably just going to be pushing more damage and stuff. But maybe that's where Timmy thinks this game needs to be. He just needs to get the life total as low as possible here. So it does look like a Force of Nature is going to get pitched. There's 2 resources left over. So something else definitely coming in behind this. It could just be a Rosetta Thorn into an Arsenal as well, I guess, from Timmy, but that would just be for 2.
Yeah, it's not all that spectacular. You know what? Maybe he's got something nasty like a Snatch. Like if a Snatch here it's likely potentially going to get blocked out, but it is probably one of the more potent cards that you can sauce out here. Or the other option is if that's another high resource card, because keep in mind, like you do have the Rosetta Swing if you want it. If he's paying and using his tunic, there's some shenanigans that he's looking at or ready to sort of pop off on. But the question is what do you need 2 resources for?
Exactly.
It's likely going to be Rosetta Thorn here with an Arsenal, but is it worth it? Is your tunic worth it to send 2 damage? And that's what we got to figure out here.
And Brodie's in the same spot you are. He's trying to figure it out. He asked Timmy, "Hey, can I see that graveyard? Can you go through that for me? Let me see what's missing in here," because he's trying to figure it out himself here for sure. So let's see, Brodie taking his time here, trying to consult the wizarding books and the wizarding ways about how he wants to do this. All right, so the Blizzard has resolved. Let's go ahead and clean that up.
2 floating resources here. That Rosetta Thorn does cost 2. I'm really curious what's in his arsenal. That arsenal could potentially just be like another 4 go again. It could very well be something like another Ravenous Rabble that you can go ahead and send, and it's 4, and then you can send another 2 with the Rosetta Thorn. You're not getting the arcane damage that you covet so much. But Tall Timmy here is kind of just struggling to bust through all of this disruption. It's so hard, Tannon, to plan a turn as Briar against an Icelander. It's not like those back in the day of Redline Briar. You've played it a ton, I played it a ton, where you look at your hand and you say, all right, I need exactly 1 resource to push 18 damage. Like those were the days. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore, especially when something like this Icelander list can do so much nasty stuff.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be I think that's the last sink below in Brodie's deck, and that's going to come out, block up most of the damage from the Light Strike. One's going to get through, and Body of Earth is going to get made, and that's going to give go again to the Swarming Gloomveil. This is like best case scenario for Timmy. He's Swarming Gloomveil behind us. He's still got a resource floating here, so he paid 1 for the Swarming Gloomveil because of the Frostbite. This is going to have go again because of the made aura. That 3 damage is going to get through, putting Brodie down to 14, and he could follow this up with, this is a free attack for 2. He's going to have that floating resource left over, and this is going to get a 2 in now. Only just 2, but still, Brodie taking it all the way down to 12. The danger zone in the matchups that we talk about, usually when you're against Wizard, though.
I really thought that could have been an opportunity to go ahead if he was holding on to, like, floating the 2 resources to me there and preserving the go again. It was like one of 2 things. It was either like another go again attack into Rosetta, or it was an erase face. And at this case, again, either way, 6 of one, half another of the other. It was still 6 damage that was pushed through.
Oh no!
And this is bad news for Timmy.
Oh no, Flake! This is really, really bad news for Timmy. This is another Aether Ice Vein. This one's going to have Ice Fusion. It's showing an Ice Bolt that is going to trigger Ice Amulet of Ice as well. That's something that he's got to deal with here, and not to mention Insidious Chill has also been triggered here. I don't know if Timmy's gonna have a hand left over after this turn.
Well, that's the danger again. Insidious Chill. That is the first trigger that Timmy's gonna have to resolve here. So 1 card out of the hand already. And hey, why not? Once this 5 damage gets busted through, I'm going to take another card out of your hand. So Timmy right now is saying, what can I do with 2 cards? No arsenal. And basically our life totals approaching parity.
Yeah, this is the scary part. This is the turn right here where Brodie's trying to get back in the game. This is where Brodie's trying to take over the game. And this is where you're seeing the big, what do we call this usually? The pivot turn in the game for people. And if Brodie can come out of this turn, he might get 2 full turns in a row. They have away from me.
In Canada, there's a saying. It's the TSN turning point.
Okay.
It's like TSN is like it's Canadian ESPN, and they have usually when they're doing highlights of a game, anytime there's a moment where the dynamic of the game changes, it is the TSN turning point, and that is kind of what this feels like right here, because it's not necessarily just about the 5 damage. It's the 2 cards that are being peeled away, and Timmy staring down a blue Ice Bolt that is going to muck up his next turn as well.
Is there usually a turning point in curling? Like, I'm trying to think of what other sports you got on there. Like, I know hockey might have some, but like curling and I don't know what, like there's probably some like moose related sports.
Hey man, until you've seen Team Newfoundland at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts just land a stone right on the button to steal an entire leg, you do not know the drama.
You're right. I don't know what you just said. I don't know what any of that means. Those are words, and I know what they mean individually. I've never heard them construct a sentence in that way before, and have no idea what you just said.
Well, there's like. There's a few towns in rural Ontario that are just like, damn right, Flake, you tell him who's boss.
Yeah. I feel like I'm watching a episode of Letterkenny right now.
Yeah, figure it out.
Just figure it out.
Oh boy, Timmy at 17 here, down to 12. Again, 17's a nice cushion. Like, you're still within it. I think what Timmy needs to do right now is hope for 2 things. Number 1, hope that you get a blue card and some natural go-agains. After that, you got to hope that Brodie Spurlock doesn't find another Aether Ice Vein and kind of has a little bit of a so-so turn. Like, hit me with like a physical damage. Hit me with like a Wounded Bull. Let me have an opportunity where I'm not losing cards to absolutely nothing.
It looks like an erase face was pitched there. That's going to bring Timmy down to 2 cards, no arsenal. And that's going to be good enough for Brodie. He's still got that Amulet of Ice. Now, a window is going to open up the beginning of the Tall Timmy's turn. So don't forget, that's actually a big thing here in a lot of these turns where Brodie is blocking 4 on 5 or 3 on 4. The the embodiment of Earth is getting created, but that's actually working in Brodie's favor a lot of times. And here comes that Ice Bolt that we knew existed there. That's going to bring Timmy down to 14, but it's going to create a Frostbite, which is going to hamper Timmy's turn quite a bit here. No extra resource from the Spring Tunic. It's only a 1, so he's got a 2-card hand here. It looks like he's going to go off with just a Snatch and have to pitch a card from his hand here as well. Now, there is a resource floating here, so if Timmy wants to, depending on what he can use the Snapdragons to give this go again. So if it were to, like, say, if it's going to hit and draw a card, he can do that, or he can swing with the Rosetta Thorn here for another 2 damage.
I think you have to 100% pick up that card and pop it in Arsenal. If Brodie's giving you a free card here, that extra card can potentially be worthless. So if you have to make the decision on the Snapdragon ahead of time, you're always going to say, well, I don't know what I'm getting. And if that card that I pick up isn't like a 12 for 0 go again. That's not what it is. It's going to be potentially 4 damage. That would be incredible. Don't get me wrong. Like, you just pick up Starvo and just change your hero around. Like, that would be amazing. It's not it's not like a purple sigil that gains 20. It's not what it is. You just basically pick up the card and you tuck it in Arsenal.
I wouldn't even look at it.
No way. I would never even have a peek at it. I don't even know what could be. The tough part is, like you were mentioning earlier, Tannon, is that there's one very key element to Briar and her game text, and it says, whenever the first time an attack a card that you control deals damage to your opponent, it doesn't say you may create a token. It's just you do it. If it was you may, you would have probably seen the Tall Timmy just pass and not create these embodiment of Earth.
All right.
Yeah. So there you go. There's the draw. No snap. Oh, did he hit the snaps?
Yeah, you went ahead and you hit the snaps. The full 4 got through. So we have a draw trigger on the stack here. A couple really big attacks could be drawn here for 0. There's a few left in the deck still. Swarming Gloomveils, Exude Confidence, and the such. Still Scar for Scar. Doesn't matter if they have Go again or not. But we have to wonder, is this going to go to Arsenal or not? Because there's still that resource floating as well here. So Timmy can still follow us up with a cheeky 2 if he wants to save this for Arsenal. Now, it looks like this is going to be a Lightning Surge. This is attacking for 4. Since this did not come from Arsenal, this will not have Go again, and this will be it for Timmy's turn.
So the difference here of what transpired here is basically what Timmy's doing is he's saying, all right, I'm opting to send 4 and give up a free 4 Go again from Arsenal because he's got 1 floating. He's saying that this 4, he's coveting 4 over 2 because that 1 resource floating could have just been the Rosetta for 2. So I'm very curious about this play, but what I can see about this particular play is what this does is it puts Brodie to a position that the first free 4 attack that you send is lethal. So Timmy just saying, all right, I'm going to take the opportunity. I'm going to put you to a life total of 4, where if I pick up a Snatch, an Entwine Lightning, a Lightning Surge, there's a plethora of cards that can put you into that danger zone. So I like Timmy's mentality here. He smells blood in the water. He's still a turn or 2 away from that Tunic. But he's got plenty of physical block here. But Brodie's been relentless. There's another one. Dear God, Brodie, let him be.
Timmy's got to be like, come on, mate. Like, can I have a turn where I get a full hand once, maybe? So this is going to be another fused Aether Ice Vein. We know the damage is going to come all the way through. Insidious Chill is triggered here. I've got to believe that Amulet of Ice is finally going to get cashed in from Brodie here because he's at 4. The digital thing, our life totals are a little off. It's 11-4 right now for Brodie Spurlock. So, like you said, all of those breakpoint attacks are attacking for 4 are lethal at this point. I think that's why you saw Timmy make the decision to push the extra 2 damage last turn. Is I think he was like hoping to get an extra card out of Brodie's hand. And I was going to say it when Brodie took that 4. I was going to say this means his hand is good from Brodie and that he's going to be coming back with something really, really strong. You can see why here as well. Now, the card that is fusing there, that's one of my favorites. That is a Cold Snap. So that's probably going to possibly go into the Arsenal as well, depending on what goes on here. That's going to be able to get played out and, draw cards. So it's card neutral on Brodie's turn. Maybe activate that Waning Moon as well. So we'll have to see. But right now we're resolving all of these discard triggers that are coming Timmy's way. So it does look like, I think it's a Bramble Spark that's made its way to his graveyard.
I mean, it's Bramble Spark is arcane damage, but the Storm Striders are still action.
Up. Yeah.
It's tough here because Timmy's down to 11 here off of that Aether Ice Vein, and you could probably surmise that, you know, the next follow-up is going to be a Cold Snap move, or no, he's okay. I like this play right here, Tannon, because he's pushing the extra 3 damage, which means that the next turn, you've got a free pass here with those Storm Striders.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is important. You know, we talked about there's no arcane stop from Timmy here. There's no arcane barrier. And I would be so worried now at this life total that you might be able to just die at some point because of something like Storm Striders. Like you're saying, Storm Striders plus nodes can kill you from a couple of different spots. And it does look like he is going to pop that Amulet of Ice as well. So I think Timmy's down to that one card here. Commotion went away from his hand too. So he's got one card for his turn here. Going up to 2, but that's not going to help this turn. What does Timmy have? Is this going to be an Arsenal and pass?
All right, so he's giving an opportunity here with the popping of the the embodiment of Earth. Brodie says, "Nah, we're good. Show me your cards, baby."
This is one of the better ones they could have. Like I said, Brodie is at 4 here. It's not 5-5. It's 5-4 for Brodie Spurlock. This is a lethal Scar for Scar. Oh, here we go. I think this is going to be it. Storm Striders are getting activated. Pitching by the heart, going up to 5. This is an Emeritus Scolding. That is going to be perfect. That's going to be enough to kill the Tall Timmy. That's going to be a fist bump. What a showing. Tall Timmy coming out swinging early in this match. Got a huge life lead. But like Icelander does, she was able to pivot on her back foot, find that 1 or 2 important turns, and really turn this game around. And for me, Flake, it had to be that Aether Ice Vein turn with the Insidious Chill into popping Amulet of Ice. I know, right? There's so many of them at the end of the game.
Well, we talked about it at the beginning when we were breaking the deck list down. 2 extra yellow Aether Ice Veins just put you over the top. I mean, in worst cases is any of those. When you're facing down 0 AB, you feel like you have a free pass. It's like you got like sort of the backstage pass to the life total as you're basically going through peeling cards and it's all good. I think that honestly, the Tall Timmy did an excellent job of making this close because it could have been a blowout on one side or the other. I think that the dynamic of this entire match changes if that Autumn's Touch was in hand and that CMH was in Arsenal. That would have been a completely different ball game, as it were. And frankly, unfortunately for the Tall Timmy, I think he positioned himself well, like we mentioned, pushing the extra 4 damage. Whereas, all right, if I have a card, I can drop it and it's lethal. And then we cross our fingers. It was kind of bleak for him, but he positioned himself where he may have gained himself an extra 1 or 2% edge to maybe turn that last turn around. Unfortunately, you know, Brodie Spurlock, no slouch himself, and he got the job done.
Yeah, I know we talk about this a lot. The Briar deck looks so different when it has Channel Mount Heroic versus when it doesn't. And you saw that game. It's still a super, super close game, but you have to wonder, you have to, imagine what happens if a Channel Mount Heroic is in play for, say, 1 turn of that game, especially early for Tall Timmy, where Brodie he had a lot of the defensive reactions and blocking going on. He didn't have as much disruption going on. He didn't have the Aether Ice Veins. He wasn't activating Coordinate Pig. He wasn't affecting Tall Timmy's hand, and Timmy was kind of just like getting to do whatever he wanted, but he didn't get a chance to push enough. And when Briar doesn't have that little extra, it sometimes falls up just a little bit short, as it did this match. So Brodie's going to be moving on into round 2. Tall Timmy, thanks for playing. We got some nice parting gifts for you. We'll make sure we send that down to Australia. It might take a week or 2. We'll see how long it takes the mail to get down there. Great showing for him, though. Really well played. And that's not going to be it for our Friday here. We have another great match on deck for y'all. Did you know which one it is, Flake? Because it's a pretty good one.
It's I heard it's a certain guy who always borrows my jacket on broadcast.
Is that Matt Rogers? I think that's Matt Rogers. That is
indeed Matt Rogers. Yeah, definitely. Matt Rogers returns to the show and gets another crack at it.
Yeah, and he's going to be going up against Michael Hamilton. So that right there, it's my pick for the current GOAT and the all-time GOAT. They're going to be playing up against each other for the second match, so make sure you don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss that one. Definitely want to shout out LSS. Thanks a lot for helping us out and putting on a great show here, providing a great prize for some of these players to play against. They're providing us with another gold foil Goliath Gauntlet at the end of this that is going to be getting to Matt Rogers' hands whether he wins it or not. It's funny, he gets to play in these, but he gets to handle the trophy every time whether he wins or not, because we're going to send it to his business over there to get it graded, make it all nice and pretty for everybody. And I would be pretty remiss if we didn't shout out one more company, Flake. Who is it? I know you're a big fan of them. I know I am as well.
Awesome people. Kayfabe Cards are a wonderful, wonderful place out there in Utah. And Joe at Kayfabe Cards is just such a fan of the game, fan of the culture, and a big fan of the Goliath Gauntlet. And I know this because when we were talking about it, and just from the get-go, he was mentioning, he's like, hey, this is like a 4 or 5, like 10-year thing, right? And I'm like, dude, I would do this until the internet ceases to exist and Internet 2 comes out. So whatever you want, man. Like, I'm in it for the long haul, and he has been on board. And big ups to Kayfabe Cards.
Yeah, we love you, Joe. Thanks a lot for helping us out. And 983 Media, thanks for doing all the behind the scenes stuff. Doesn't get enough credit for the amount of work they do there, but we don't want to tell Marcus that too much. I don't want his head to get too big. But like we said, that's going to be it for the first match today. Brodie Spurlock moves on into the second round. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Flesh and Blood. Hamilton versus Matt Rogers.
The Goliath Gauntlet is brought to you by Kayfabe Cards, where reality and fantasy meet. Go to kayfabecards.com for all your Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and Flesh and Blood needs. Kayfabe Cards. Be who you want to be.
Blake, what an amazing first match between Brodie and the Tall Timmy, with Brodie being the winner there. Just utterly floored with how well that was played from both sides.
I was so floored, Tannon, that I changed my shirt. I was like, I need to actually change my shirt. I was just sweating at just how the amount of tension was palpable there. But yeah, Brodie gets it done. Tall Timmy did really whatever he could to make it work. But unfortunately, I mean, Brodie on Icelander, it's a tough out. And we got another Icelander. In fact, we've got the Icelander player in this matchup.
Absolutely. For you, I know it was the tension of the match. It was just me watching Tall Timmy play in general. Just had me kind of, foot-clamped, But anyway, like you said, this match, no slouch either. In fact, this is the one that this might have been the one for me in the first round that I kind of highlighted the most and circled the most. You mentioned the Icelander. We've got Michael Hamilton himself, the world champion in this round. And he's going up against somebody that's not a slouch either. And they're playing the hero they're most known for as well.
Yeah, each of them are bringing their pet decks, I suppose you could say, to the arena here. Michael Hamilton, the author, the architect of Bolander, which caught everyone by surprise and took US Nats by storm. It is basically the way to play Icelander now, and it is such an innovative way to look at the hero and the success that Michael Hamilton has seen with this deck. I mean, U.S. national champion, world champion, undoubtedly the best player in the world, and your 2022 Speedy Award MVP.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Don't forget that. That's a pretty nice one. But his opponent this round, no slouch himself, the guy I like to refer to as the GOAT, and that's Matt Rogers. He's gonna be playing his trusty Dash this round as well. And you were pretty interested in this Dash deck. This one looks pretty cool. Like you said, you were talking to me a little bit beforehand. This one seems like it's a little bit flexible. We've seen some of the dashes in the past where like this one is, I always want to call it the 0 to 60 dash. I know that's the name of the card in the deck, but it's just that one just puts the pedal down and tries to kill you quickly. Or you've seen the full turtle up one that we've seen before where it's like very defensive. It's trying to set up this one turn where it attacks you three times with a pistol over and over again. But this one's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, this one can do a lot. It can pivot, but oftentimes it depends, because if you're kind of putting your eggs in various baskets, you're never really hammering down on one aspect of your deck, be it aggro, be it control, combo, however you want to do it. In this case, Dash is probably one of those heroes that really can pivot in an 80 card build and say, hey, we're going to go full control and wait you out and punish you with pistols, or we're just going to go face in the most aggressive way possible with boost. And if you're going with the boost mechanic, then you've got to peel out cards like Sink Belows, Unmovables, Reinforce the Lines, Tome of Findals, perhaps, because you do not want to whiff on those boosts. But
awful spot, yeah,
for sure. But if your method to madness here is control, well, you got a pair of Unmovables, you got to Reinforce the Line to circumvent dominate effects. You've got Sink Belows as well as most of your cards that are blocking for 3. So you've got definitely a way to basically draw out the game, get to those induction chambers, plasma purifiers, and late game, you're pitching blues and you're really railing face with those pistols.
Speaking of the Ice Hunter player, we take a look at the list here of Michael Hamilton. No real surprises, right? And why? I mean, he's won so much with this deck. It's been unreal. I still remember the first time seeing him play this deck on camera. I was doing the match, and he played Wounded Bull, and I had to get my phone out, get on Google, go onto one of the, the FAB websites. And I'm like, what is this card? Because I hadn't seen it since, what was it, Farewell to Wraith draft? I think was the last time I had seen it, because I wasn't around for the original Wraith, and I was like, I don't even remember what this card does.
You probably even passed over it too.
Oh yeah, it was a late pick, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This is kind of like there's like 3 or 4 cards left. 2 of them are from classes you don't play, and you just scoop a Wounded Bull. Michael Hamilton, like you mentioned, like what's there to really do to this list? Eventually, this list is like the iPhone of Flesh and Blood decks, where eventually it's like, do I even need to look at the new model? What have you really improved? Like maybe you change the font on this or that or whatever, but ultimately the main driving force of the deck is as good as it gets. And really, maybe you change up things like, okay, throw in the double Aether Ice Veins that are in there. You shed an energy potion, you shed a Brothers in Arms, and then boom, there's your list. But the core set of this list is so set in stone. It's etched in concrete that to a degree, this list is probably not going to change until new heroes come out.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, there's no reason to change, right? It's been great. It's been awesome. We've seen it do very well so far in the first and second Goliath Gauntlet, but let's see how it does in this matchup. That means we're going to have Michael Hamilton playing against Matt Rogers. Let's get down to the game.
I love that. Check out that Life Total app. You've got the heroes represented. Michael Hamilton is doing a great job on production himself. So big assist from Michael Hamilton. Again, the best in the world versus the former best in the world, arguably. And honestly, Tannon, when you're talking about this, like you're talking about the GOAT, Matt Rogers eventually kind of has to step away. It's kind of like when Tom Brady retires and he's in the broadcast booth. Like eventually you're just, you got to change things up. Like he's got other projects that he's doing, PCG grading, things like that. Like he can't commit as much time as he may want to. But if that ever changes, if Matt Rogers is like, you know what, 2023, I want to get back to it, there's no doubt in my mind that a final could be Michael Hamilton versus Matt Rogers.
Oh, 100% agree with you. I don't know if Rogers is as washed as Brady is. I'm going to get some some hate for that one. But I was going to say, I think Rogers still got a lot left, or a lot more left in the tank. It just matters how much he wants it. He's got so much going on. And here we go. We've got our first attack of the game. Amulet of Ice was developed by Michael Hamilton, but he's being attacked here for the first time. Let's see how aggressive Matt Rogers is. These cards are going to be in some of these are going to be in his deck no matter what. But he is boosting, so this lets me know that there's going to be a lot of Mechanologist cards in the deck. And when we take a look at this equipment, that's a lot of Arcane Barrier, Flake.
Yeah, that's a great basic indication of what the strategy is here. You're starting with the induction chamber instead of the Teklo Pounder. You're going in with all the Arcane Barrier, and you're essentially saying, all right, no problem. Like, let's get this done. Let's make it work. And look at him go and just start saying, all right, and now I boosted. I'm going to go ahead and develop resources based off of this stuff. He might actually look to push as much tempo as possible here, get Michael Hamilton to shave that life total down. As you can see here, he started with a zipper hit and he's not done yet. He's continuously going for the throat here as he follows up with a high speed impact.
And that was a red zipper hit into, it looks like a red high speed impact as well. And that is one high speed impact into Michael Hamilton's face. He's already down to 27 here. Buckle in, Flake. This game might be really fast.
It might be fast, and the nasty part about high speed impact is that if it hits, the next attack that's boosted gains dominate. So there's always an opening here to actually combine this with a big attack. Unfortunately, looks like Matt Rogers is just content to go ahead and establish an arsenal here, and that's perfectly fine. Again, Matt Rogers put in some work. Michael Hamilton already down to 25. Matt Rogers might actually, say, all right, you gave me the window, I'm going to take it, but now we're going to play the turtle game and maybe, be a little bit more opportunistic rather than aggressive.
With that life total being lower, like you mentioned, that means Scar for Scar is going to have natural go again. That's going to be followed by a second Scar for Scar here from Michael Hamilton. So that 4 went all the way through to Matt Rogers. He's at 36. He's facing down another 4 here. Let's see how much Matt Rogers wants to race here, because now he's got choices.
Yeah, well, 8 free damage with go again is pretty nasty as Matt Rogers has to basically digest it here, because you want to keep all the cards. And it looks like Michael Hamilton is doing his best job to say, hey, let's equalize this life total. That's an E strike. I believe he chose draw a card. And again, Icelander with an Arsenal is the best thing you can do. But I think, no, rather he actually went for the buff power here. So that's another 7 spot.
Yeah, I think that's going to be ending his turn. He's got a card left over in his hand. Yeah, I was going to say, I think that one came from Arsenal. So you went ahead and, he had the extra card left over. So it looks like this is going to be attacking for, that's a 2 on there, but that's just added to it. So that's a 7. And have we seen a block yet? I feel like we haven't seen a block yet in this game. Both players are at 25.
Yeah, both players acting like they've got tickets to Avatar 2, and they know that it's a long movie and they don't want to miss any of it. So, back at 25, Matt Rogers pushed the tempo here, but Michael Hamilton had the right recipe with a scar into an E strike for 7. So that's one way to equalize the game.
Now, speaking of the right recipe, this is going to start to turn out with a high octane. This says whenever you boost a card this turn, you gain 1 action point and you draw a card. So card replacing itself here, and Matt Rogers is going to have action points for days this turn. Let's see how deep he can go, how wide he can go. Here, he's got an Arsenal. He should still have 3 cards left over in his hand. Looks like we're going to start off with I think that's a red 0 to 60 here.
Yeah, that's a free 4 for 0 boost, and that's a good way to start it. Again, action points aplenty here. The go-agains are earned from the boost, but at the same time, you could just you could stack the action points and opt not to boost, so you're not burning through your deck if necessary. But the action points here allow you to play something like Spark of Genius here to establish more of those items.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look like a block came through for Michael Hamilton, but he ended up taking 1 there, so he's down to 24. So that life total being 1 less than Matt Rogers, really, really important here. But Spark of Genius, what do you think we're going for here?
I mean, I think that you're going to just go for either a purifier or another induction chamber. My guess is a purifier to bring that pistol up. I think you have to, really establish the pistol value to a break point. I think getting a pair of purifiers is the right move. Yeah, there's the first purifier. Again, a pistol for 2 is good, but it's easily blocked. A pistol for 3 now breaks all the 2 blocks, and there's plenty of them in Michael Hamilton's list. So you're starting to break past those weak blockers, but a pistol for 4 is the magic number. So I think what Matt Rogers wants to do is desperately go ahead and establish those purifiers. So late game or even mid game, once those purifiers are on board, you can dedicate a lot of your cards to protection and then rely on your pistols to do the work.
Yeah, it does look like Declo Foundry Heart is going to get activated here. 2 cards are going to get banished. Gain some resources here, because I do believe that was a Pulse Wave Harpoon possibly picked up off the top, and that's what it is. That was picked up off the draw from the Spark of Genius here.
Nasty card. We were talking about this off air earlier. This is one of those coveted cards from Dynasty. There's not many in Dynasty, but this is one of those cards that everybody is happy to see when they pull out of a pack.
Yeah, this is going to go ahead and be blocked by the Merit of Scolding. A little bit of damage is going to get through. We're going to charge up the pistol a little bit here. Man, I love the speed and just how sure these players are and the way they're playing in this matchup. Each one of them masters of their craft, know what they're doing with these heroes. And it's look, Flake, you and I talk fast. It's hard to keep up with these two.
That's what you're spot on. But again, we were talking about this at the start of the broadcast, that these are the heroes that these 2 players are known for. These are their mains, as it were. And much like myself, I put in, 5 weeks of Oldham. When you sit down to a game and you look at your cards, all of the dominoes just align right away. There's no monkeys with abacuses in your mind trying to figure this out. You see the cards, you know precisely what your options are. It's like muscle memory. And both of these players are right in they both have home field advantage in this situation.
Absolutely. This is going to be a Coronet Peak activation for Michael Hamilton, his turn. Just to kind of harp a little bit on what you were saying there and how much I think they resonate with these heroes. If we were to ever get like alternate art heroes with, players art on them, like let's say down the line when you got inducted into the LSS Hall of Fame, right? The FAB Hall of Fame, they're like, what hero do you want to go in as? And they give you alternate art. I think these would be the heroes these players chose, and they would be first ballot Hall of Famers.
100%. And I like that. I like talking about this kind of stuff too. In other games that I was very intimately involved with, I suggested a Hall of Fame as something. Yeah. Intimate is a good word as well. But like, it's something I think that down the line, maybe in a few years, Flesh and Blood should probably investigate as a way to sort of celebrate the game and the players and those who shaped the game moving forward. And if you're talking about first ballot, this is a first ballot, no question. These two would go in first ballot, unanimous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you didn't vote for these, you lose your vote.
Pretty much. Don't be one of those losers in the MLB who just never vote for somebody on the first.
Like the one guy who didn't vote for Jeter or whatever.
What a doofus. Absolute doofus.
Well, it's not a doofus? A red zipper hit. Let's get back. Let's say just so many baseball references. Look, I love you, Flake, but you've got to keep me on task here. That's your number one goal. And if you do this too much, I'm going to lose it.
I know.
It does look like we have a frostbite getting thrown over to Matt Rogers. I think that was a blizzard that got played here. So zipper hit coming in for 5 here, but there is a frostbite that Matt's going to have to play through in this turn as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, Tannon, but I think you blew a tire on that segue.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a doofus? Zipper hit. I'm like, okay, I can see it. All right.
Sure.
I can respect that. I can certainly respect that.
I'm in the booth with the king of the segue. I have so much to live up to that it makes it even worse, right? So by comparison, I'm even worse. Like normally I'm like a 5 out of 10. By comparison, I'm like a 2.
Oh, Lord. All right, well, zipper hit's a great way to start. Again, it's a 5 with the go again effect. You do have that frostbite to burn through, but I think what Matt Rogers is accurately assessing here is 25 is a nice, comfortable lead. I don't think Matt Rogers ever wants to drop below 20, but if you could start peeling life total away from Michael Hamilton off these breakpoint type attacks, then you're in a good business. And I think he's pretty happy now. He's got a counter on the pistol. He's got a purifier established. He's now hunting for that second purifier. And once he finds it, I think that his game plan is going to drastically change.
His game plane. That's
his game plane. Yeah, I messed up. I messed up.
How does he fly directly into Michael Hamilton's stuff? That's what we got to figure out here. Got to cause the most possible damage.
He does it with maximum velocity at high octane.
Yep.
And he wants to create a high speed impact. I'm running out.
Does that make Hamilton's ship sink below?
It could, unless he's unmovable. In which case, he's going to have to
reinforce the line. Yeah, exactly. Right.
All right.
All right.
As we went through the deck list one extra time, 25 to 21 is pretty good. This game started with sincere fireworks.
They really put the throttle down to start this game.
Oh, Techlocore.
I've got more, but we're all going to get slowed down here by this hypothermia for Michael Hamilton.
That's a great card here. And this is going to be one of those cards that is actually affected by the upcoming bans. And that's going to be something worth, talking about and digging into and how that ban is going to affect the tournament down the line. But for now, this is a perfectly legal card. Hypothermia is one of those cards that got suspended as of January 30th. And for reasons like this, it's a card that basically shuts down all of these go again. So the boost, no dice, your pistol, no dice. So Matt Rogers can only really sit back here and do some of the, just kind of take care of his own, load the pistols, find the items and see what kind of damage you can actually push through.
Exactly. And speaking of throttle, this looks like a red one is coming through to start off the turn here for Matt Rogers. After just a little bit, what do you call this? Creative accounting, a little bookkeeping, getting everything in order, setting up the account.
Yeah. You got to make sure that, your lawn is mowed and your flowers are watered. And that's kind of what he's doing on this case. Like if the gate is shut, you got to kind of take care of your own. Like he's under quarantine. That hypothermia has basically said, all right, the roads are closed. It's too cold outside. So just, do your own thing, sit at home and figure it out. And the beautiful part about this is that it's not necessarily like you're not sitting there twiddling your thumbs. Matt Rogers has things to do. He could load his pistol, establish the items, etc. But a throttle as a 6 attack here, even if it doesn't boost, 6 is still pretty damn good.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a Emeritus Scolding being played from Arsenal here from Michael Hamilton. That damage is going to, a little bit of it's going to get through, bring Matt Rogers down to 23. Looks like we're going to have a double block from hand with a card left over and a resource floating. Wonder if that's a blue that he's going to pocket or if he's going to use that resource. Yep, there we go. Resource up. Go ahead and use the waning moon. He had a counter on his tunic, so that works out pretty perfectly for Michael Hamilton here. And he's going to have a card left over in his hand to put into his arsenal. So we're going to be going right back over to Matt Rogers most likely here after that tunic gets put up to 1. Yep, looks like that's what's going on.
This might be one of the hardest matches Matt Rogers ever played in his life. I mean, you're at home, you're through the webcam. It's a completely different environment, and you're up against the world champion on the deck that got him there. Matt Rogers, the stakes of Goliath Gauntlet might not be on the same echelon of a calling or a national championship or a world championship, mind you, but it doesn't mean that Matt Rogers doesn't want to win this. You and I have spoken to him very frequently about the tournament specifically, and he was so gung-ho about being a part of it that he has calling wins, he has championships, he wants a Goliath Gauntlet championship. Like, this is something that he would be very proud to have on his resume.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that any kind of competition is going to get the best out of him. He can't not bring his A game, right? He's kind of like the Tiger Woods type stuff. He wants to win in everything he plays. And Michael Hamilton the same way, kind of stuff. And you can't ask for a better matchup here in round one of just two of the the best players of all time playing at the height of their game with their best decks. Starting out this turn, though, we're going to see a T-Bone from Matt Rogers. Looks like it's a red T-Bone, so that's coming in for 3.
T-Bone, a nasty card, especially against a wizard that doesn't necessarily want to give up some of this equipment. I mean, you can go ahead and give him the Ironhide gauntlets and not pay through it. But after that, the beauty of something like T-Bone is when they're chained together, when you're peeling more equipment, because right now you can say, all right, take this. It doesn't have Blade Break. It doesn't have Battle Worn. There's no temper on it. It's just there. It doesn't really matter because T-Bone is not necessarily going to kill the equipment. It's when that T-Bone connects with other T-Bones where you can do things like, all right, you've given me the useless equipment. Now give me the stuff you don't want to block with. Things like Coronet Peak, things like Tunic. But at this rate, I think Matt Rogers is merely saying, all right, I need cards out of your hand, and it doesn't matter about your equipment.
Yeah, good call, because there was a card out of hand plus an equipment block here. It looked like the boots came out. Then I think the heart got activated from Matt Rogers, so we've got action points still to go here from the high octane, and this looks like another T-Bone. Look, I feel like you knew this was coming, Flake. This is the second T-Bone this turn, and this is going to make it pretty hard to get this blocking correctly in these spots.
The problem here is that what Matt Rogers did is he broke the combat chain by activating the Teklo Foundry Heart, which then put the boots back on Michael Hamilton's feet. So the boots can be committed back to the T-Bone here and at no penalty. It's typically when those T-Bones are like T-Bone boost into like a, something else, like another T-Bone, perhaps. I've seen it done. It's a nasty, nasty reality. And frankly, Matt Rogers is running 9 T-Bones, probably for this precise reason, because it's not necessarily about dealing damage with T-Bone. It's chaining them together to go ahead and chew through equipment. And Michael Hamilton's equipment is, there's Coronet Peak, sure, but there's not really much equipment that T-Bone is really going to care about. It's not like you're scooping something that they want to hang on to. And I'm really curious if Matt Rogers may have more of this, but breaking the chain means that Michael Hamilton can just go ahead and say, all right, take my boots again.
Yep, looks like Michael Hamilton is going to take a deep, long thought about this here. Maybe considering what play he wants to make. Don't forget, he's still got that arsenal there. Still got an Amulet of Ice as well. So if it were something from the arsenal that had Ice Fusion, maybe there's, I was going to say, I think there was one card left in Matt Rogers. Maybe you snag the card left out of his hand here, but we'll have to see. 3 cards left over.
Yeah, I mean, the production on this entire tournament, again, big ups to Mark Gibson of 983 Media for putting this together. It looks so beautiful. And again, there's only so much you can do on the production side. Eventually you have to kind of rely and on the players themselves and their setups. But Michael Hamilton, Matt Rogers have, the boards are nice and clean. There's no glare. It's just, it's thematic. It's beautiful. I love the Goliath Gauntlet. It's so good.
I'm glad that we could fit Matt Rogers' board into the camera, because usually he has all the graded cards, and I don't know if it would have fit cleanly as Dash. There's just too much stuff.
That's correct. And if he's grading a Null Rune gloves, then I'm gonna have to worry about his vanity,
his sanity, maybe too.
That too, yes.
All right, looks like the Storm Shotters are going to come back out. Looks like the Plasma Purifier is going to get activated on the Techno Pistol, and the pistol is going to be following up this T-Bone.
That pistol's coming in for 3. Again, he went ahead and used the Plasma Purifier to boost up the potency of that pistol. And there's still a counter on the induction chamber. So we might see that pistol come out an extra time, but it's going to cost Matt Rogers. Again, firing the pistol means removing a token from it, but loading it is what actually costs resource, and that's what you have to pitch to. Matt Rogers now is just kind of chipping away. Again, that pistol at 3 means that a lot of those 2 blocks, things like your 2 blocks like Insidious Chill, Polar Blast, hypothermias, cold snaps. There's a lot of 2 blocks there. So this does eventually present a little bit of a break point. So if Michael Hamilton has a card that he doesn't want to give up, he might have to throw a 2 block in this and again, take a little bit of damage.
Every point counts right now too, for Matt Rogers. He's kind of walking Hamilton down. I will say this, pretty impressive how close this game was. Matt Rogers came out to a blazing start and was super far out ahead in life totals, but it shows you the resiliency and the power of this Icelander deck, even playing from behind, where sometimes it just wants to be, because so many of its cards are better when you're at a lower life total.
Keep in mind, Michael Hamilton has a little bit of revenge on his mind. Michael Hamilton got bounced out of the tournament by Majin Bay. Michael Hamilton now he's a competitor. He's a gamer, Tannon, and I'm guaranteed he's not taking this tournament as just sort of, extra sauce. This is, you're up against the best. You're playing against a goated player, one of the best ever. He wants to just say, hey, I'm still the guy. I'm still the king here. And if I beat Matt Rogers, that is not only redemption from Goliath Gauntlet 1, that probably just propels me as the favorite for this tournament.
Absolutely. It looks like he's going to go ahead and take this and go down to 15. For me, I think I would have the World Champion trophy on the playmat next to my deck, just so the players could see it. You can even put it where, like, look, it's enough off camera that they can't see it when we're doing the production for GG, but Matt Rogers knows it's there. Just got my little World Champion trophy. Maybe have like your rag out and start shining it when he answers the call, and you're like, oh, I didn't see you there. As you're like shining the trophy.
Oh, you know what I would do? I would use my 2 calling wins and my World Championship trophy as my tunic counters. I would just drop one on it each time. There you go. And be like, oh yeah, sorry. Dice are cool and all, but I use real life trophies.
All right, looks like these attacks are coming in. Lots of action points saved up here from Matt Rogers. Hamilton down to 12 here. This is going to get followed up by an attack as well. This is a high speed impact. I believe this is a red as well. So this is coming in for 4. This is a scary turn for Michael Hamilton.
Well, this is Matt Rogers' plan, which is, all right, eventually, I've given you the old-fashioned way, but now you're going to have to deal with the pistols. I've got, action points for days. What are you going to do about it? There's plenty of blues in this deck to really fuel Matt Rogers' aggression here, and this is a wonderful and absolutely devastating response.
Yeah, this is a blizzard here. It's going to take away the go again, plus give a frostbite as well over to Matt Rogers, possibly halting this turn in its tracks. Now, the beautiful part, there's a resource floating here.
So yeah, in this case, like, it's not as nasty as you may think, purely because of the fact that Matt Rogers can say, I choose not to pay the 2 because I have an extra action point. So we'll just close the chain and start this all up again. It's the frostbite, frankly, I think that Michael Hamilton is more inclined about. Now, the beautiful part about this is that move might have caught somebody and actually, that blizzard against somebody with floating action points might have gooned like an intermediate player. Michael Hamilton in round 1 or 2 of a calling might have said, somebody might have paid into it. But Matt Rogers, again, is Matt Rogers. And he's saying, okay, no go again, but I got action points falling out of my pockets.
And this life total is getting really dangerously low. It was at 5. Now we're down to 2 for Michael Hamilton. Wow, I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of this flake. This might be one of the biggest life total leads I've seen in the Goliath Gauntlet this late in the game. This is 20-2 here for Matt Rogers. And Hamilton's not going to have any. Does he have a card left over to Arsenal? It looks like he has a couple. Okay, so he can maybe do something this turn because he needs to get some kind of forward momentum here, or Rogers is going to run away with this game.
What Michael Hamilton needs right here is probably. It's not bad, but it's just life total. And that doesn't really mean a whole lot here. I think it's great. It's 7 and it gives you up, it brings you back up to 3. But what Michael Hamilton needed here, I think, with those 3 cards was red Aether Ice Vein into an Ice Fusion and peel some cards away, tuck a card.
Of ice. Yeah.
And then get there. But unfortunately for Matt Rogers, unfortunately for Michael Hamilton, vanilla damage here is just, who cares? Matt Rogers has, money in the bank to basically spend on it and say, no problem, like, shave away my life total. He's still protecting it, which is the right way to do, because Matt Rogers is not thinking about what that 7 represents. It's what that opens him up to. And he's very protective of his life total. He's got a plan. There's no time limit. Matt Rogers doesn't want to make mistakes here.
Yeah, and he's going to do what I hate when I'm playing against dash players. They get late in the game. All their blues now, they just get pitched to, all right, I'm going to put a counter here, put a counter here, put a counter there. And I'm going to move this counter to there. I'm going to give this thing go again. I'm going to attack you for 3, like all this stuff. So he's going to go ahead and start powering up this pistol so that he's going to be able to attack with, lethal pistols over and over and over again. And Hamilton's going to have to give him cards for this. And then Rogers has still got cards left over his hand. So he's still got, say, like one of those 0 for 4s and the 0 for 3s in his hand. I mean, this is going to be too much for Michael Hamilton to deal with.
Oh, it's gross. It's absolutely filthy. And Michael Hamilton here is just kind of realizing, like, I didn't chip away nearly enough as I needed. And like you mentioned, like you said, it's a painful experience when you're realizing it's like, oh, I got 3 cards out of my dash opponent. And what does that blue represent? Well, it represents probably another 8 to 12 attack coming my way, which is, what they can potentially do with all the various items and trinkets that they have on the board. Right now, Matt Rogers is just riding the wave here on 1 induction chamber and 1 plasma purifier. But that's good enough. That means that Matt Rogers right now could present 6 damage off of like a blue pitch and be like, all right, we're good. Like, that's good enough for me. I can give you 3 other cards to block A, B, whatever, but you're not taking this life total anywhere close to where you want it.
Yeah, this is a decent player from him. That's a cold snap from his arsenals. It's going to give a frostbite over to Matt Rogers and draw a card for Michael Hamilton. So he's going to stay up on cards here and be able to block a little bit. But Matt Rogers up to the task of getting through this, and it looks like we're going to have our first attack from him this turn. It's going to be one of those pistol attacks. So let's see what Hamilton wants to do, and if he can get himself out of this turn. It's going to be a tall task to get himself out of these turns coming up and get something going as well, because that's the hard part, right, Matt? Flake? Don't want to call you by your first name and confuse anybody here.
Are you asking Matt Rogers?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, this is the hard part, right? Matt Rogers, he's like, oh, mate, yeah, this is the hard part. He's like,
oh, gosh. And he would tell you, he would absolutely tell you. He's like, yes, pretty much sucks. And but again,
like, if you've ever been Kodachi locked, from Katsu or anything like that, we've all been Phoenix Flame locked and limited from FA. You've been in the situation where the small cards, the little add-ons, start to be the real problem late in the game.
Well, because a lot of this is also a matter of, you have a big lead, a life lead, and you want to preserve cards to make it as uncomfortable for your opponent. And there's 2 things that happen. You could be an intermediate player or like even just above average, and you're just not even going to care. You're not even going to look at your cards and say, yeah, whatever. I'll figure it out on my turn. I'm too lazy to see what I can commit. And then you start shaving points that you don't necessarily need. Maybe you end your turn with an arsenal and an extra card in hand. You're like, shoot, I could have given this card as a block. Now I'm, shedding life total. Matt Rogers is not going to make those mistakes. He's going to know precisely what cards are expendable and what cards he'll need to push the tempo and perhaps win this game. But in the meantime, Michael Hamilton is also kind of chipping away. And Matt Rogers knows that life total is a resource that he can also expend, but at a certain degree, he's going to have to protect it, because once Matt Rogers gets to, 10 or less, suddenly those boots become incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, you can see he's definitely recognized that there was a waning moon activation in the middle of the attack here. And some players might be thinking, oh, Hamilton's just trying to get cards out of my hand. I don't need to, mess with this, kind of like to your point here. But Matt Rogers went ahead and respected it, pitched a card, got some resources, and stopped some of that damage. So it does look like we're getting a block here on the pistol. And that's going to go ahead and end out Matt Rogers' turn. So Michael Hamilton, hey, the life total change during Matt Rogers' turn there was in his favor.
Yeah.
Hamilton got damaged through it and didn't take any. So huge turnaround turn from Michael Hamilton here. And here's the start of another one. Card on the bottom and Lightning Strike coming in. Looks like it was draw card chosen from Lightning Strike. So make sure that he gets an arsenal here in this turn as well. So attacking in for 5, going to set up an arsenal. Not bad. If that's a blue card, this could be a pretty decent turnaround turn for Hamilton.
It's work, and you're chipping away at Matt Rogers, and you're presenting threats here. The difference also, I just want to make note here, is the previous turn, Michael Hamilton responded to the pistol getting go again by jamming out a blizzard. So again, pay 2 and a frostbite. The difference of this blizzard versus the other blizzard was the fact that Matt Rogers didn't have floating action point. So Matt Rogers' turn got completely shut down by that blizzard.
No high octane. Yeah, no high octane to start the turn like he had in the one before, which was like the high octane turn. You always hear about that. The high octane turns are the dangerous ones. I haven't seen many of them lately, but that was one of the better high octane turns I've seen in a long time. We got, let's see, like 6 attacks that turn, 5 attacks that turn.
You know how I learned that high octane is a one hell of a card? Well, it was high octane into a mechanoid that basically just absolutely devastated me. I was like, oh my God, this mechanoid is basically beating the living crap out of me. That was in my Oldham practice. It was the only loss I ever had to Dash was to a mechanoid list. And I was like, what the hell's going on? I don't know what's going on.
It's so they just Voltroned you. Like what's the one called in Power Rangers? So when they all come together, they make the
Dragon Zord. Well, you get Megazord. Yeah, Dragon Zord comes in. You get like the Ultra Dragon Zord, Megazord thing. Yeah, and this is
Power
the
Rangers
thing
from space.
I don't understand how dumb these kids are. Whenever Rita Repulsa drops a monster at Angel Grove, the first thing I'm doing as a Power Ranger is calling in the Zord and stepping on it and then going out for lunch. Like,
let's go to pizza.
Bother? Just get the Zord and step on it. What are you doing, you dumb kids? But then again, like they're in high school. What the hell do they know, right? So idiots.
You got to create some drama, man. Every show about high school, come on, you got to create some drama.
And the best place to start an invasion of planet Earth is Angel Grove for sure.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Screw New York. Forget about all the other big cities in the world. You don't want to go to LA. You don't want to go to like Dallas or something. No, you want to start in Angel Grove. And not learn your lesson for 8 consecutive seasons. And then anyways, there's Shadow Lake Frigid. That's a card that Michael Hamilton wishes he had about 5 turns ago.
All right, Flake, you did it. You officially broke me. It took a little while, but that was the one that got me. All right. Yeah. So we do have the Channel Lake Frigid, like you said. This is going to slow Matt Rogers down quite a bit here. That pistol had come in, but it was met with a block as well. So looks like that's going to end Matt Rogers' turn. Hamilton making a big fight of this. 16-3 here. Huge life lead for Matt Rogers, but Hamilton is smelling the comeback here. I feel like, most players, I don't know if I would have been able to find my way out of this one being this far behind against someone of the likes of Matt Rogers, but Hamilton has a lot of fight in him and never gives up.
And he knows that he could probably come back here. I completely believe that in Michael Hamilton's competitive career, he has been in this position before, maybe not against a Dash, but he also knows that this is the best start that he can get. Finding that Channel Lake Frigid really taxes every single thing that Matt Rogers wants to do. If Matt Rogers needed 1 blue to load pistols and fire, now he needs 2 blues to do it. It basically just doubles down on the cost of everything he's doing, but Michael Hamilton, unfortunately, may have found it a little too late. Matt Rogers can then just say, all right, well, maybe instead of loading all my pistols while the CLF is out, maybe I'm just going to go ahead and send a 6 at you and then a 5 at you. And I'm okay with that. And again, Matt Rogers has enough of a life cushion here where he can survive another attack his way, but he's kind of dancing the line because 1 7 attack, 1 wounded bull, something like that. If you give that a free pass, you're in the danger zone, and Matt Rogers is well aware of that.
Absolutely. So let's see how they're going to play their turn here. This turn, both players, really going to take their time here. We had a very fast and furious match here at the beginning, and I feel like the gameplay has slowed down quite a bit because nobody wants to make a small misstep here. Any little thing here is spelled in, and it looks like we're gonna have an ice bolt for Michael Hamilton. That's a blue one. Obviously, with the Icelander list, you're gonna get mostly blues. This one comes in for 3.
And you got to do this because you need to make sure that CLF sticks around. The CLF that was cheated out on Michael Hamilton, on Matt Rogers' turn, never does the ice check, the flow counter check, until the end of your own turn. So Michael Hamilton got it on Matt Rogers' turn, gets it on his turn, and it'll stick around for a while. And this is a big advantage that Icelander Stormborn? She's Stormbind, my bad. She stormed something, but she gets to cheat it out on Matt Rogers' turn, which allows it to sort of stick around there. So Matt Rogers has to, the strategy at this juncture is Matt Rogers just needs to understand that he's not really going to get much done while CLF is out. So you basically turtle up. You have enough AB to just withstand what's coming your way. Matt Rogers' plan here is probably just to use his resources efficiently, weather the storm. Once CLF is gone, it's back to business.
Yep, you can see that he went ahead and did that, stopped a little bit of the arcane barrier. Now we've got a waning moon activation on the stack here. That's going to go ahead and get through a little bit, put Matt Rogers down to 13. These life totals are getting dangerously close, Flake. We're at 13. We talk about that danger zone being 12 for Matt Rogers, so really, really important for him that turn to stop that much damage and stay above that really problematic life total, that one where you're really, really worried. And so this looks like we're going to have another item, another plasma purifier is getting added to the board here for Matt Rogers.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Again, it's you can't do much on a CLF turn, so why not just drop a an item and hold a card. And the card that he's holding right now is to protect his life total. It's likely a blue, and it's likely just to sort of weather any arcane that's going to come his way. But you got to wait out that CLF. So I like this move, by Matt Rogers. But now you're at 2 plasma purifiers. Now that pistol's a 4, and that's the break point. Michael Hamilton is now going to have to start committing extra cards to block these, or he's going to start giving up equipment like Coronet Peak, like Ironhide Gauntlets. So Matt Rogers is basically setting up his turn, saying, you got your CLF, no problem, you got me now, but doesn't mean I can't drop some more garbage in the garage sale, and we're going to eventually, there you go.
Is that 2 ice cards that just went into the pitch? This would be devastating for Matt Rogers if the CLF is going to stay around a turn here.
That's a Frost Hex, and I believe an Aether Hail that went to the pitch zone as well. So the flow check is going to be okay. But again, Matt Rogers is approaching this as, all right, my flight's delayed, and it got re-delayed, but we're eventually going to get there. He knows that it's just a delay. It's a stall tactic. His thought process here, there are the cards that he's pitching, again, protecting his life total. Smart move by Matt here. He knows that all this does is perhaps delay the inevitable.
Yep, so 3 Frostbites coming across. This was fused, but it doesn't look like the Amulet of Ice is going to get activated just yet. Waning Moon activation here from Hamilton, trying to make this game as close as possible. Matt Rogers still committed to keeping that life total as high as possible. Looks like he's going to go ahead and stop all that and stay at 13 here.
Yeah, no, smart move by Matt. Beautiful, beautiful, well read. Knows that he's just got to wait it out. He's just got to wait it out. It's going to be exceptionally difficult to hold on to that CLF for a 3rd turn. So Michael Hamilton I think what he's doing here is like, all right, no problem. We'll just wait it out. We'll also wait it out. Maybe I find something better. But the one thing that I'm curious of is Michael Hamilton hasn't ripped an Aether Ice Vein like that. I don't think he's actually fired one off. Like, he needs to find a red Aether Ice Vein.
One, I think, super early. But yeah, other than that, he hasn't really had one. Yeah.
That's critical. That's a major piece of the puzzle that he needs to find and convert on.
Absolutely. Any disruption here would be huge. There we go. Like you're talking about, just generic damage. But with Matt being at this life total, he's still got to worry about every single point here. This isn't a lightning strike for 5.
Looks like a 5 go again. He didn't draw a card, I don't believe. So Matt Rogers is just signing for it.
Oh boy, Matt Rogers going down to 8. This is a Wounded Bull. Hamilton's life total is lower, so this is a lethal Wounded Bull coming. Matt, is this game slipping away for Matt Rogers? I'm sorry, Flake. Is this game slipping away for Matt Rogers?
It would be hilarious if I had all the budget in the world and I had like Industrial Light and Magic as my production partner here. I would actually go ahead and deep fake Matt Rogers in that picture at the bottom right corner where you ask him and he says, yes, it is to a degree. I think he's still confident.
It's like the football ones where like they say what school they're from. It like all of a sudden animates for a second. Like, yeah, this is actually a problem. Yeah.
I don't think it's slipping away necessarily because of how much AB he has. And he's able to withstand a potential clapback. Like, he could send an attack, and then when Michael Hamilton feels he has a window here, he can make it happen. But take a look at this. He's just going way down to 3 here. Matt Rogers and Michael Hamilton. Holy Moses.
This makes me wonder if Matt thinks he can present a good enough turn here with a blue left over his hand so he doesn't get cheesed out. If he can present enough attacks that Hamilton's going to have to give him practically his entire hand. Because there is an arsenal here, so you need to worry about that. But Rogers taking a calculated risk here, going to go down to 3, see if he can pull this game out. He's going to start off with a T-bone here this turn. Let's see. This is the first time Michael Hamilton has had priority during Matt Rogers' turn. Now, the Tunic's on 2, so there's no extra resource there. But we'll have to see. Hamilton does have that arsenal. He still has those Storm Striders. We know how dangerous this deck can be during these turns, during your opponent's turn.
This is glorious. This is so good. That's the perfect card that you could have presented. An exact lethal for free. That's
Do something.
Perfect.
Yeah. Check.
The only thing better than this would probably have been a 0 to 60 red. However, this is good enough, which means that Michael Hamilton now needs to commit a card to block this or kill Matt Rogers. But with Matt Rogers having 4 AB at his disposal and a ton of blues in the deck, it's going to be a tall order for Michael Hamilton to convert here. And I think Matt Rogers is just going to say, deal with it, or the pistol's coming next.
And Hamilton almost had go time there. I saw him reach for the boots, but it looks like he's going to hesitate just for a second here.
What a match. I'm so glad that I got to cast this one, Tannon. This is so like coming down to the wire. What a brilliant game for both players.
Yeah. I don't know why I brought a full chair to this match, because I've only needed the edge for the entire time. So looks like we got a block from a Coronet Peak here. So one's going to get through. And from the arsenal, is that a tome?
That is a tome indeed, and that's going to gain you some life. And now we get a little bit more insight of why Matt Rogers was totally okay to go down to 3 here, because that Tome of Findall is drawing 2 cards, and given that it's from Arsenal, you're allowed to go ahead and gain a life for each card in hand, and I believe he's going to be gaining 4 health here.
Yeah, and I think this is going to... Rogers still has cards in his hand, like you said, so this is a spot if Michael wants to pull something off, he's got to do it now before this life total changes, but is he going to have enough to get through here? Does he want to give up his Storm Striders here?
So Matt Rogers here does not have an action point after the Tome of Findall. Right. However, he does have the opportunity to use the Achilles Accelerator. He has boosted from the T-Bone, so you can gain an action point with the boots. But if you bust Achilles Accelerator, that is 1 less AB. You are now open to only to protection of AB3. But Matt Rogers should have gained a little bit of life here. We're waiting for the resolution. I think Michael Hamilton is doing the calculations here, and the hamster is doing overtime on that wheel in his mind, because before Matt Rogers gains 4 life, Michael Hamilton is probably going to try to convert.
And that's what it looks like. It's looking to be Emeritus Scolding. I've seen so many games in this way. Like Emeritus Scolding from Arsenal, that is pointing 4 arcane damage at Matt Rogers right now.
Well, lucky for Matt Rogers, he's got AB4, so he can, pitch some cards here. The difference here is that if Matt Rogers pitches to block the arcane, he is gaining less life because the cards he's pitching no longer connects with the Tome of Findall. There's so many layers to this, and timing is so critical. And Matt Rogers is opting in this case to use the floating 2
to go down to 1 here, preventing that 2. Now he's going to pitch that 1 card left in his hand. It's a blue. This is going to block out all 3 from the Waning Moon.
Here comes the 2 cards, so he's going to gain 3 life here. He's going to go...
he's going to gain the 2, yeah. Because I think he pitched the last card in his hand there.
Right.
And so this looks like the accelerators are going to get activated. Is this going to be it?
Matt Rogers has nothing left to worry about, perhaps. There's no more cards that you can actually use here. The Tunic is at 0, so you can't even fire off your boots for free here.
I'm going to clean up the chain here because the heart's going to get activated.
All right, he's going to go ahead and toss 2. That's a great use of resources. He's up to 4 resources. You could load a lot of pistols with 4 resources.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pistols with Michael Hamilton's name on it here. He's only got 2 cards in his hand here. I think the writing might be on the wall here, Flake.
Well, Matt Rogers has really navigated this, especially this complex turn here. Both players are trying to find an edge, but it's going to be difficult for either of them, as both of them are world class. These are arguably the 2 best players that Flesh and Blood has ever seen in its history, and they're on their mains, and the life total could not get closer. It is incredibly tight here. I think that Matt Rogers, with the pistol plan and those purifiers still loaded, Matt Rogers has the resources and the ability to send 8 attack at Michael Hamilton.
It looks like we're going to start this in this second half of this turn by loading up all these items like you're talking about. It's going to do all this little counting. There's counters everywhere. 2 resources floating. Yeah, that heart is actually activated already. Looks like that plasma purifier is going to get activated here. It's going to pump up the pistol. We're going to do it again. We're pumping up the jam. Looks like twice on the plasma purifiers onto the Techno pistol.
I gotta say,
coming in.
Tannon, there's this sense of relief when you're facing an Icelander. You're like, okay, you've played out of Arsenal. There's no more Frostbites I got to deal with, and you've used your Waning Moon. Perfect. Let's go. Free pass. Land the plane. Let's get it done. There's no more trickery. You've got the Storm Striders, but I don't think you can get it done. Oh gosh. Okay. All right. So that's a full block of the first pistol, but this is the importance, Tannon, of a pistol being at 4 instead of 3.
Yep, and it's going to go ahead and he's going to use a resource here floating to make that pump up. He's going to gain 1 life to go up to 3 because it's a fighting spirit while your life total's lower. But this is happening again. Matt Rogers is going to be attacking you again here this turn.
There's 1 float here. He's just trying to do the calculations. Is there any nonsense AB that I need to be concerned about? What can you do to me with 1 float and a card in hand? He might be saying, all right, what if that's like a red frosting in hand where you can use your float, activate Storm Striders and frosting me for 3. If I have no float left, I just cost myself the game here. But I don't think Matt Rogers, Matt Rogers has access to the deck list. He's going to review it. He says, all right, there's nothing you could throw at me for free. No wizard nonsense that I need to worry about. we can convert, he's going to use the last resource, float the pistol, and get to that point where Iyslander becomes a shadow of herself. When she plays without an arsenal, Tannon, it is a completely different ball game.
Yeah, we've seen that. Think back to the top 8 at Worlds where we saw an Iyslander have to play an entire game without an arsenal, and that was one of the hardest things to watch I've ever seen in this game. And when you take away your hero's hero power, like when your hero doesn't actually do anything, it's a lot harder to win in a game of flesh and blood. You need your hero to be doing what they're supposed to be doing to make your deck as good as possible. So, yeah, Matt taking his time here. It looks like it's going to be a T-bone from hand. Going to go ahead and boost. So this is attacking for 3. I'm sorry, this is a yellow T-bone, I believe. So
yeah, yellow T-bone.
2.
Just a little 2. No big deal.
A little cheeky 2.
It's nasty enough, right? It came in for free. What he's saying here is, I think Michael Hamilton absolutely has to absorb this. Because that pistol's going to come in for 4.
Yeah, it looks like the tunic's going to come out here. Block, soak up a little bit, take that 1 that gets through. Now here comes the pistol. That looks like a wounded bull that's only blocking for 2. So I think that's going to be game. And you see the fist bump. What a match, Flake. Matt Rogers going to go ahead and win this nail biter.
That got close in a hurry. I mean, we saw how this match started, Tannon. It began essentially with both players just dumping their hand of damage and signing for it. And it was nasty because this game started essentially at 25-25. You're cutting it down, and it really got gritty and real greasy later in the game as both players had to really keep track of what either player had access to and what either player was capable of in terms of the clapback. And frankly, Dash on that plan becomes a lot harder to connect with, but also more powerful in the clapback for a more efficient, at a more efficient rate. So the longer that game went, the better it was for Matt Rogers. But you got to give it to Michael Hamilton, because Michael Hamilton took a licking and managed to make it exceptionally close.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that game was going to be a runaway at the beginning. We had something like almost a 20-point life differential, one of the biggest ones we've seen late in the game here on the Goliath Gauntlet. Matt Rogers was firing at all cylinders early, had everything he wanted to do. And like you said, there's no early Aether Ice Veins from Hamilton as well. Some kind of disruption on Matt Rogers' hand would have gone a long way in keeping him in that game and maybe making the game even closer, or maybe even changing the outcome of that game. But unfortunately, wasn't there.
Didn't quite get it. Matt Rogers advances. Michael Hamilton, unfortunately, is out again at the Goliath Gauntlet. But I mean, I think that he can just go ahead and cuddle with all of his trophies and kind of get past it. I think it's okay. He had a check for like $100,000 or something.
That world champion check, you just put that on the other side of the bed. You use it as body pillow. You snuggle up with that. I think you'll be fine.
I think you'll be fine. Definitely be fine.
Let's go ahead and do some cleaning up here for this weekend. So that's going to be it for our Friday matches. Not to be outdone, Saturday we do have another match coming up. Nathan Crawford's going to be in that match this Saturday. Make sure that you're going to be looking around for that one as well. But I'm a pretty big I'm a pretty big fan of the match that's coming on Sunday, and quite excited. We've got Daniel Rutkowski versus Tarek Patel, and I am super looking forward to that one because I think these are 2 players that are very good at understanding exactly what they're doing in their games. Like one of the best at understanding their heroes and what their role is in every matchup.
Daniel Rutkowski has really established himself as probably one of the best 5 players in the world. Tarek Patel is the, Canadian national champion. He was the American national champion. This is also one of the best players in the world. I think Daniel Rutkowski leaning on what he knows, but Tarek played Fi in the previous Goliath Gauntlet. Tarek is no stranger to the hero. I think that it's going to be probably one of the most intriguing matchups, but I cannot speak highly enough about someone like Daniel Rutkowski, who is probably one of the quieter stars in the game. Somebody who is just always there on day 2, always making a play for a top 4 or a finals. He's been there. He hasn't necessarily converted on a big tournament, but I highly believe that it is in his it's in the cards in 2023 for Daniel Rutkowski. And I think that if he just continues on this trek, eventually he's going to convert. People like Brodie Spurlock, same thing. But there's so many great players here at the Goliath Gauntlet. It's hard to pick who's going to win it, but here we are, and so we see the world champion again gets brushed aside by former number one.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned Rutowski and Brodie in the same instance there, because I think they're the two most underrated players in Flesh and Blood, in my opinion. The names that, like, these are the names to watch for. You know, Rutowski has been really making a name for himself here, and I think Brodie's about to be thrust into the spotlight here later this year. Also, we've got Chris Ayali going to be here on Saturday as well. The world's runner-up. You know, we just had the world champion, so maybe the world's runner-up can, you know, get a little revenge for losing that finals by going further into the Goliath Gauntlet than him. Just so everybody knows, after this week, we will be taking a week off from the Goliath Gauntlet. Indianapolis, the calling in Indianapolis is going to be going on that weekend. I know you're going to be there yourself. I feel like a lot of us are going to be traveling or busy that weekend. We've got a lot of Flesh and Blood going on, so we want to be able to take a step back for that weekend, let everybody enjoy that. That's what's going on. We don't want to, you know, go up against that kind of thing. So we'll be back with our matches the week after that. Also, there is one more thing that we're here at the Goliath Gauntlet are considering, and we're taking under evaluation. We're talking to the players about this. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, there was a banning that happened, in a quite big one, quite an impactful banning happened. You know, 4 things changed in Classic Constructed. So we're going to talk it over with the players, see what they deem is most necessary. The idea right now is it's very possible that we're looking to possibly change up deck list in the top 4 of the Goliath Gauntlet, because like everybody knows, we have this stuff recorded in the past. So these matches have already actually occurred, and we're doing the production of them afterwards. So we're actually a little bit further in the tournament than where you're watching right now. And so a lot of this has already happened. Plus, we're trying to protect the integrity of the tournament, of the deck lists that were put forward, and not try to give anyone an unfair advantage by being able to change their deck later in the tournament. So when we get to those 4 players in the top 4, we're going to see what they think, how they feel, what they think is the best process moving forward, and we'll go from there with the Goliath Gauntlet.
Yeah, we can just blame Brian Gottlieb. That's it.
Yeah, it's look. Can we start this hashtag blame Brian?
Well, that wraps it for this today's production. I believe Tannon has been a joy as always, a rare privilege to be able to cast together, but there'll be more down the line. So yeah, let's waltz our way out of here, Tannon. This is your job. I'm not taking it.
Oh, absolutely. So that's going to be it for Friday night. Make sure you tune in for Saturday. That's Nathan Crawford versus Chris Ayali. Sunday, Dan Rutowski versus Tarek Patel. You don't want to miss any of those matches. So make sure you come back here for Night 3 Media for more Flesh and Blood.